Hey everybody, Shel Brodnax here with another episode of Stager Talk RESACON edition. And today I have a newcomer onto our scene. We took her and kicking and screaming to get here. We really did, because we wanted to share with you all the things we loved about Miss Rebecca Hay. Welcome.
Thank you. That is the most unique and special introduction I have ever received. Thank you, Shel. I'm really excited actually to be a part of RESACON. And it was not kicking and screaming. I'm excited to be there.
I joke. So, but Felicia's the one who found you. And she's, Felicia gets excited. When Felicia sends me somebody's Instagram, I'm looking at it, because she's like, you got to get this person in here. You got to do it. And I'm like, okay, let's make it happen. So I really thank you. My team thanks you, because we think you're going to add so much value. So for you, those of you who haven't not checked out the RESAconvention.com website yet, Rebecca is going to teach how to confidently add full service design to your service offerings and increase your revenue. So your session is going to really focus on home staging professionals can add the design to their business, diversify their revenue streams, and increase profitability, which is key for everybody. Everybody wants to be more profitable, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is the thing. It's one thing, and we briefly talked about this offline, you and I, Shel, but when you get into any creative industry, you're just so excited to be creative. And actually, funnily enough, I started out of school as an interior designer working at a staging company. And that was my very first taste of design. And I remember just being so darn excited to just style, and I got to use my craft professionally. And so you're so excited to just be creative and get also the recognition. Let's be honest, we want that recognition, but then not really paying attention sometimes to the financial side. And there's a lot of us that are like, well, profit, okay, yeah, I'm sure it's fine. And we sometimes turn a blind eye and we don't pay attention to that side of things. So I think it's a really useful and helpful conversation to have at RESACON.
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest struggles that stagers make is not understanding their profitability, how to scale, how to be profitable. One of the biggest mistakes is not charging enough from the get-go, because they're green and they think this imposter syndrome. Who am I to be charging this? And it's like, oh, please be competitive with your fees, because it is really difficult to raise them after the fact. And everybody does it. I've done it. I'm sure you've done it. Everybody's done it. And it makes it so difficult to up level or to scale anything, because you will develop your client base. And it's unrealistic to think that you're going to charge the same amount that you did 16 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. We've got to be able to stay on top of it. But if you don't come in with a competitive price, that upsell, when you're trying to raise it, all of your clients are going to come unglued. It's just not a good situation.
And I think, I mean, you would speak more to this, Shel, than I could, but I would think that in the staging industry, because a lot of my talk is going to be about how you can increase those revenues and those profit margins by adding full service interior design to the staging business. And, I came to this idea because I work with designers there. I have a community of designers, and I have had home stagers say to me, okay, help me. How do I do this? I want to now take my business to the next level. I want to do more interior design. I'm having people ask me, oh, I really loved how you staged my house. I'm sure there's stagers right now who can relate to this. Wow, you did such a great job. Or a realtor will say, oh my goodness, you did such a great job. Can we hire you to do our house? Or you did such a great job. I have a client, they really need a decorator. And it can be an uncomfortable situation if you don't feel confident in what that would even look like. How do I price that service? How do I even go about sourcing and doing that for a client? And so some of us might feel a little bit nervous. And so I think this is a conversation that will be really exciting to have. And I can't wait to talk to stagers just in person too at the show, because I'm really excited about in person. I'm tired of all the Zoom, but it'll be really fun to talk and feel from them. Is there a ceiling to what you can make as a stager? I mean, I don't know. That's something that I would imagine you could continue to scale, and you can have multiple team members. You can go across cities, but there's only so much money that someone is willing to pay when it is to sell a house, because ultimately there is a budget. Whereas with interior design, it's a little bit more of an emotional decision. And we'll get into that and the differences in the psychology behind the buyer of an interior designer versus the buyer in a staging
very different mindsets. One of the things that I always tell people that when I'm coaching at stagers is that, when you look at staging, the perspective is that it really doesn't matter what the client likes. It really doesn't matter what the agent likes. It certainly doesn't matter what the stager likes. It's because everybody's got their personal style. So stagers and interior designers, they don't go in and design or stage everything to their personal tastes and styles. That wouldn't make any sense. So you have to be able to differentiate between the two. And when you're staging, stage for what's best for the particular home. And when you're doing interior design, they want purple and gold in their bedroom. By golly, give them purple and gold.
Right. That's a good point, actually. I hadn't really thought of it because it is true. I mean, that could be a pro and a con, depending on who you are, because it's exciting to get to exercise maybe a little bit of more creative freedom to do interior design, because you get to be a little bit more wild and you don't have to appeal to everyone, right? Like you open up sometimes Architectural Digest or any great online publication and you see some real extreme bold spaces, but those aren't really what appeal to the masses, which is when you're selling a home, you really want to be, sometimes you want to be a little bit more, I'm not going to say neutral because color is great, but it isn't always so niche.
Right.
Right. So that if you want to be more niche and experience that creativity to another level, absolutely, by adding interior design, that's going to be an element of it. But then there's the flip side, which is you do have clients who have opinions and you have to listen to them sometimes.
Yes. Yes, they do have opinions. That's the other thing with the interior design, is that you do have to value what it is that they're saying. And I would imagine I probably wouldn't be good at that job because I just would not. Listening to that many opinions and trying to be so accommodating for what it is that they're wanting. Well, I would actually, let me erase that. I would imagine in going into this as an interior designer, you have to have an intake. So you're gonna ask all these questions up front. So if you're really great at what you're doing, you're really gonna have a good idea of what it is that your client likes and appreciates and wants. So hopefully you're able to put all that together in a manner in which they really want. It's just sometimes people change their minds and they change them midstream, and it's like you got orders going and something's coming or it's not coming soon enough. And the other thing is that with staging, you can get a staging done, for the whole thing, but from the time you bid the job, you complete the job, could be less than a week. And staging the actual job is a day, versus an interior design project, those can go on forever.
Oh yeah, minimum 6 months, But that is the benefit of being able to diversify, right? So it would be really nice, especially with an uncertain economy. And I'm going to talk about this at RESACON, how diversifying your revenue stream, there's that expression, stacking dimes, not putting all your eggs in one basket. So you can balance those quick turnarounds with staging, which we all love, and interior designers dream of that, I will tell you. But with those longer term built relationships where you can be creative, and let's face it, you can probably make greater profit in one longer term interior design project than in one staging job, because it does span a long time and there's a lot of opportunity within that to make more money. And those are the sort of details that I really want to get into at RESACON and share from my personal experience. What are some of the unique ways that interior designers are making money? What are some of the tricks of the trade, I guess you will, and the ways that I've seen? And obviously there's mistakes that I've made and I haven't always been profitable. And, when I first started my design business, I was in the red, which means literally I owed back taxes to the CRA. I'm from Canada. It's called the Canadian Revenue Agency. You guys can figure it out, but not a happy place to be. So you need to kind of consider all these things. And diversifying your revenue by adding an extra income stream can be a really great asset if you want it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. What's funny is that it's interesting is that the similar theme that has come through all my stager talks for this year for RESACON is really the experts such as yourself that are here teaching these sessions. Every single one of them has said, I've made this mistake. I've made this mistake. So I love that. I think people a lot of times say, oh, who's teaching this class or who's doing that? How do we know, they really know what they're doing? Listen, These people are giving straight from their hearts, and we've all made mistakes. Anybody that I think sometimes people look up to you, if you are somebody in an industry and they think, oh, they're perfect, they just have got it all figured out. And it's like, have it all figured out.
Spoiler alert. None of us have it all figured out.
Nobody does.
Just the reality.
It's total reality. Nobody's got it all figured out. And we all make our mistakes. We've been there, done that. But when you do get to a certain level, and you've made those mistakes, but all of us as well want to give from our hearts to help other people, because it's all about rising tides raise all boats. I mean, I'm definitely a proponent of women supporting other women. I'm all about the sisterhood. And it's just so imperative that we do give back to the industries when we become in these positions where we do have some knowledge, because we've made the mistakes and we've conquered them and figured it out a little bit, at least to be able to help some other people and get them on their path.
Oh my gosh, I love that, Shell. I love hearing you say that. I say that all the time. I feel like attracts like,
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so when you are a person who likes to give back, who's community oriented, you are just going to, like, I'm getting goosebumps right now, but that's who you attract into your world. And I get that, I have a community of designers. We have like a free community, and then I have courses, but the designers always say, wow, there's such incredible supportive designers in this group. Like, this is amazing. It really is collaboration over competition. And I'm like, oh, I feel so grateful. But it's because I care about those things that I create that circle. And Shell, it seems like you're the same way.
Yep.
That you create that circle of people around you who also value that. And we are stronger together. And I still run an interior design business. And now I have a podcast, and I'm doing online courses to give back to the design community, because it turns out I love to teach. It's one of my passions. I almost was a teacher. So it's kind of like a nice little combo there. But I just love to say, hey, here's what I've learned. Like, here's what I did wrong, or here's what's really working for me. Like, take it. And when someone takes an idea and it works, oh my goodness, like, hallelujah. I don't feel that, watch out, they're going to take my job. I just don't. There's enough work out there for all of us.
There's a definite mindset issue, and I feel like we need to get an Airbnb and go drink wine for a night. I'm telling you, there's such a mindset on a farm, of course, that have the horses. It is one of those things with such a mindset issue where I know women that are absolutely mine. And they don't want to share. And it's like, why is somebody asking this question? And I'm not going to help that person. And, they're a competitor, and no, I'm not going to help them. And then I know other women that are like, oh my gosh, come over here. Let me help you. Let's go to coffee. What do you need? Do you need this? Do you want a tour? Do you have any questions? And they just want to embrace you. And I've always found it so interesting, in my opinion, and from my purview, trying to rattle through people that I know. And it's just, I think that people that like-minded people are so much happier. Their mindset is different, and they are absolutely more successful, because you do attract, like you said, you attract that. So if in your immediate circle, you've got, all kinds of chaos, you got to really kind of examine that and attract the right people into your life at the right time. Because everybody should if you have people in your life that's not supportive, kick them to the Dead to Me Club, man. I'm just like, get out. And do it sooner rather than later. Just one thing I've learned is I didn't have a Dead to Me Club before I was 50. Now I should charge dues because I could retire, because you just don't need it. You just don't need the extra havoc, right? You just have to keep the people around you that there are the ones that are encouraging and the ones that are supporting you. So I love that. I love that mindset.
Yeah. I think we have so much to share in this life. There's so much we learn. There's so much we can pass on and share. And it just feels good. I don't know, just feels good. I can't even explain it. People say to me, like, Rebecca, why are you doing this? Like, you have a really successful design business, and you don't need to do like online courses. Like, just stay in your lane, do the design, like, keep growing that. And at first it set me back for a minute. I'll tell you, like, when I first started doing the podcast, I had people in my life who were questioning why I was such an open book and why I was sharing so much information. And I mean, it came back down to two things. One, that's just my nature. I've always been that way. It's who I am. And it took me like 40 years to figure that out. But also, two, it just makes me feel freaking good. And I love helping other people. And when I hear that, and it's so funny. This is total sidebar, but if you watch the TV show Friends, there was that episode where Phoebe was saying there are selfless acts. And they were like, there's no selfless act, everything is selfish. She's like, no, like this. And they came up with something or a reason why whatever example she gave was actually selfish. And she was like, okay. And then finally she's like, I know what, I got it. I carried my brothers, she carried her brother's triplets or something.
Yep.
She was the surrogate. And everyone's like, okay, yeah, no, that's fair. That's a selfless act. And then, the episode goes on, and then out of nowhere, typical Phoebe styles, if you watch Friends, it comes out of her mouth like, oh, when those babies were born, it just felt so good to have helped my brother. And she was like, oh, she covers her mouth because she realized, oh, I guess that was selfish. But if it's selfish to help other people where you both feel good, that's a good kind of selfish.
That's a
And
good
I always
kind.
think of that example.
Absolutely. I also have the same mindset as well, as it feels good. And the other thing is that we know too, is that even in the, with the service providers in our industry, the education providers, people that are teaching people how to start the businesses, the people that are speaking at RESACON, everybody does it because they like to give back and they want to help someone. It's just it's a good mind space to be in, because the alternative is just misery.
Yeah, I'm really excited to go to RESACON, to be honest. Like, I get to go to Vegas. I'm going to bring my husband. He's never been to Vegas.
Oh,
So that'll be
good.
exciting for him. He's very excited. I'm like, just so you know, this is a work trip.
Well, he
But
will like it.
I'm excited to meet stagers, meet other speakers, and just be in community in person. So I don't know if there's anyone who's watching or listening who's thinking like, oh, I don't know if I want to make the trip or go. I would just encourage you to push yourself, to get yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit, get yourself outside the box, because you just never know maybe who you'll meet, but what idea might just come to you, whether it's a speaker session or it's in a networking session. There's so much power in being in community. And Shell, this RESACON, what you have created is that community for like-minded professionals. These are home stagers who are interested in improving their ways of business, interested in making more money, and looking to share and learn from each other. Like, I just think I'm really excited.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. We're always excited for RESACON. And it is one of those things that we say, hey, man, the sessions are amazing. The food is great. The venue is amazing. But the networking, the camaraderie, the sisterhood, and there's some great men there too. They can have my ovaries. I'm not using them anymore, so they can join us. So it's one of those things that everybody kind of pulls in together. And when you are at breakfast with somebody and you're sitting at this table with a few people, the conversations that you have, we always tell people, stagers always tend to think, my business, we're different here. We're different by geography. And we're like, no, you're not. We speak to stagers all across North America and even in other countries. The staging problems that people have are steady through, no matter what coast you're on, no matter what continent you're on, no matter what country you're in. But if you are a stager and you live in New York, and you come and you're at breakfast and you're sitting with somebody from Southern California or from Toronto, Canada, those are very different markets. They're different real estate markets. However, when you guys start talking about things, they will undoubtedly solve a problem that you've got. You're just going to hear these conversations and people are going to tell you things. And what I liked what you said earlier is the inspiration. You put it all together by the end of it. This is what tends to happen, is then your ideas start to ping and it's like, boom, boom, boom. And you're just writing them down as quickly as you can because your creative juices have been given like a shot of adrenaline and it all just comes to you. And I don't know, the creative part of me is that when I get on an inspiration streak, you have to write it. I have to do it. You can't ignore it because it's painful you can't even turn it off. So you have to do it because you're not always in that mode. Most days you don't walk around on that, full throttle creative mode. So, but when you're there, you got to write it.
Yeah. And there's something to be said about physically removing yourself from your everyday and going into new surroundings where it's kind of a mental break too from work. Like, who doesn't want an excuse to get away from the everyday?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. I'm really excited to be a part of it. I'm excited to share, my experience and the experience that I have from my community, from my designer colleagues, of how you can add on the interior design. How can you leverage that? How can you set up your process? Like, what does that even look like? What are designers doing? Because it's a different process than staging, right?
Yeah.
You're probably going to resell goods. We're going to talk about that. There is so much power in reselling. You know, you have this buying group. You can access the buying group. You can buy product, but then guess what? You can mark it up and you can sell it to your clients and you can make their space amazing. And there's just, oh, I'm so excited. There's so many ways that you can take what you're already doing really, really well and take it to the next level.
Absolutely. Let's talk about your podcast for a moment. Tell everybody the name of your podcast.
So my podcast is called Resilient by Design. And it came by that name because obviously I'm a designer, but I just really started to notice and appreciate how designers are mostly women. I know you have, there's probably more male stagers than there are male designers, but that we are literally resilient by design. So when we encounter a setback or a challenge, especially in business, we sometimes don't give ourselves credit or don't really dive into the confidence that we just have within us. And so the point of that is that the podcast is about design business, but it's really a tool to inspire interior designers, stagers, decorators, by giving them those tools, those systems, the insider insight so that they can confidently grow their business and be more profitable.
Awesome. And what platform can people find that on?
Anywhere that you find your podcasts, you can find it.
Awesome. 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 Yeah. I will be following that. I follow Jeff Lewis. Jeff Lewis helps me put my makeup on every morning. I'm not going to lie. I just do it because he's funny as heck. They're not even talking about business.
Yeah, he'll be hilarious. My podcast is not so much funny as it is real actionable business advice, but
I like good business advice. I'll take that too. I like them all. If I can listen to somebody and I don't have to read it, I'm great to go. But yeah, design.
We'll have to get you on the podcast show.
Yeah, definitely. I would love to. Just let me know when.
That'll be great. We have great conversations on it.
Absolutely. So we're at the end of our time. This goes by so fast. I tell you, it's like that, man. It's what happens when we got great people on the show. And I thank you, Rebecca, for joining me. Any final words?
No, I'm just really excited. I'm glad I got to do this today, get to see your face before I get to see your full 3D and say hello and give you a big hug. I'm really excited to see everybody at RESACON this summer.
Absolutely. Me as well. Cannot wait to meet you in person. For everybody else, I say it at the end of every single show. If you are on that fence about attending RESACON, jump off that fence, run, don't walk to your computer, clickety clack clack, and buy your ticket, resaconvention.com. Until next time, everybody, happy staging.